Save $700 right now. Operators are on duty, so call ABC Seamless Siding for your free consultation.
This is CNN.
Leaders of the Big Seven industrialized nations kick off their annual economic summit, but it may be Russia's Boris Yeltsin who steals the show.
And the crew of the Space Shuttle Columbia orbits its way into the record books with a marathon mission. Welcome to World Day. I'm Bobbie Battista at CNN Center in Atlanta.
And I'm Reid Collins in Washington. The leaders of the world's 7 largest industrial democracies are gathered at Munich's Palace of Wittelsbach for 3 days of summit talks now. Wide array of issues are on the table. Among these, finding some way of ensuring relief gets into the besieged Sarajevo safely. And the summiteers work too on the deal that could bring billions of dollars in Western help to Russia. We get more on Munich now and some early signs of dissent from CNN's White House correspondent Mary Tillotson.
Just about anybody with anything to protest is doing it in Munich this week, since the leaders of the 7 big industrial democracies are all here too. One contentious issue facing the economic summit: can the so-called G7 nations strike a deal to revamp the world trading system? The European community has agreed to cut its subsidies to farmers, but not as deeply as the U.S. wants. American Treasury Secretary Nicholas Brady says the EC move is a good step, but does not change the problem of trade barriers to U.S. farmers. The trade deal has to be turned into an omelet, says Brady. He calls the current EC agriculture concessions just an egg. German Chancellor Helmut Kohl had breakfast with President Bush this morning and claimed the economic summit will mean jobs for Americans, a point Mr. Bush is expected to stress at home, where he is in a difficult race for re-election. As if to buttress Kohl's point, the Bavarian Motor Works and South Carolina Governor Carol Campbell are in Munich, trumpeting BMW's decision to open a plant in Spartanburg, South Carolina.
This investment will create, according to all of the calculations, in its first phase, with the support investment that will come in the ripple effect, about 10,000 jobs total.
Just a year ago in London, it was Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev who met with the G7. On Wednesday, Boris Yeltsin, president of the Russian Republic, will meet with the industrial leaders.
So the commitment to fundamental economic and political reform is well underway. Yeltsin carries that torch. He has said that it is irretrievable, it is irreversible. He plans to see it through, and therefore, obviously, it's up to us to help him.
Yeltsin arrives in Munich with a new promise from the International Monetary Fund for $1 billion in aid. He will be looking for still more assistance from the G7, including money to help repair or close dangerous nuclear reactors behind what used to be called the Iron Curtain. The curtain was never really iron, of course. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster 6 years ago proved that, when radioactive fallout from the Soviet accident drifted over Western Europe. The G7 nations are divided by geography on how much to invest trying to prevent another Chernobyl-type disaster. It is most urgent to Europeans who live closest to those Chernobyl-type reactors. But differences with the U.S. and Japan, at least about coordinating reactor safety, are expected to be resolved at this summit. Mary Tillotson, CNN Munich.
And this program notes CNN is planning live coverage when President Bush holds a news conference. That'll be Wednesday at 6 a.m. Eastern Time. The wife of the French President, François Mitterrand, narrowly escaped a car bomb attack today that left 4 people dead in Iraq. Danielle Mitterrand was in a 6-car United Nations convoy up in the Kurdish region of northern Iraq when the last car exploded. UN officials say at least 4 people were killed, some 19 wounded. An Iraqi opposition group says 3 Kurdish security men and a 10-year-old boy were among those killed. Mrs. Mitterrand, who was promoting humanitarian aid for the Kurds, was not hurt.
The Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein is reportedly cleaning house. The New York Times says Mr. Hussein has begun a major purge in the Iraqi military in response to the discovery of a coup plot against him. The Times says the reports from Baghdad are prompting the U.S. and its allies to step up their efforts to oust the Iraqi leader. One U.S. official confirmed to the Times that there was American involvement in the plot against Mr. Hussein. Another standoff in Iraq between United Nations weapons inspectors and the government. The U.S. Army major in charge of the team kept members of the group in the parking lot of a government building overnight. They want to get in the building to look for materials relating to Iraq's chemical weapons arsenal. Iraq says the facility is not weapons related. The team was not allowed in the building, but reporters were.
I'm sure that when we do get access, and we will, because again, it is our right to be able to come into this facility. It's been 9 hours. Whatever might have been there is long since gone. You gentlemen did not get an opportunity to tour it until 7.5 hours after we arrived. That in and of itself should tell you something.
Major Jensen says the Iraqis locked their employees inside the building overnight.
As leaders of the industrialized countries are meeting in Munich, leaders of the former Soviet republics are holding a sort of summit of their own in Moscow. Some deep economic and military differences expected to dominate these discussions, as are the ethnic differences long suppressed and now exploding violently in some of those former republics. One of the hotter spots is Moldova, specifically its breakaway Dniester region, where heavy casualties are reported following weekend fighting. Ethnic Russians and Ukrainians are fighting ethnic Romanians, many of whom want Moldova to become part of neighboring Romania.
Authorities have restored calm at the federal penitentiary in Leavenworth, Kansas. One prisoner was stabbed to death and 3 others were injured during a disturbance last night by hundreds of inmates. Officials say the trouble began when isolated fights broke out in an auditorium. About 300 prisoners then took control of the auditorium, a food service area, and a recreation yard. Guards used tear gas to put down the uprising. Well, Columbia astronauts today broke a record for the longest shuttle mission. The old record of 10 days, 21 hours, and 37 seconds was surpassed about an hour ago. Longer shuttle flights give NASA a better idea how astronauts can deal with prolonged weightlessness. Experiments on this mission have looked at ways to counteract the adverse effects of long space flight. We'll have more on the shuttle mission later on this hour. And CNN will also have live coverage of the shuttle landing, which is now scheduled for Wednesday morning at 9:08 Eastern Time.
Emergency food and medicine continues to arrive in Bosnia-Herzegovina, but residents still are having to dodge bullets at times to pick up the supplies. And after weeks at large in some big country and escaped convicts back in custody, those stories and more are ahead on World Day.
People don't stay at La Quinta Inns just because they happen to see one everywhere they go. Although, it is a convenient excuse. Call 1-800-531-5900. La Quinta Inns, America's hotel value. This is La Quinta Inn's new money-saving Super Value Rates coupon. If you can't find one, just tell them you saw it on TV. Call La Quinta and ask for the new Super Value Rates from $34.50.
Hello. We've just discovered an artifact used by Columbus himself on board the Nina. This ancient mug, remarkably well preserved, bears a detailed rendering of the vessel, plus an actual map of the voyage.
Hey, wait a minute. That's a mug from Long John Silver's. Just 99 cents with any meal. I have a complete set.
Oh, remarkable. We just discovered a complete set of artifacts.
Go fish, Long John Silver's. Go for Long John's $1.99 fish and chicken combo, and don't forget to add a piece.
Around the corner, around the country, at work or play, go on your way, the convenience stores, the Speedway.
Wherever you travel, look for these brands and save on quality gasolines for less, plus a whole lot more. And now get $5 in free gas. Pick up your free Passport to Savings booklet for details and special savings, like 12 packs of Pepsi products now specially priced. And buy any 2 Nestle king-size candy bars, get one free.
We're on your way, the convenience stores, the Speedway.
The American-made Super Buy for July is the Rubbermaid Tote 6 cooler with refreeze bottle. This handy cooler keeps 6 cans cold. And now it's Super Buy priced at just $6.66 at Century Hardware.
Tonight on Sports Tonight, we have got a lot of baseball, especially if you're a Dodgers fan. The first of 3 consecutive doubleheaders to be played against the Expos. Also, our Games of 92 report on Summer Sanders, Janet Evans' heir apparent, perhaps tonight at 11.
UN aid workers are feeding about 50,000 people a day now that mercy flights to Sarajevo are picking up. Another French plane braved the run today, bringing more food to the city under siege. But continued sniper fire is keeping many people home, and some of the aid is piling up in warehouses for want of takers. Michael Nicholson reports on how the Bosnian capital is bearing up under the strain.
Sunday morning in Sarajevo, Mass as usual at the cathedral, and you run the gauntlet of the snipers to get there. They must wonder if any of their prayers are being heard. They have much to pray for and much to be saved from. The siege of this city now enters its 4th month, and the mortars are still falling. It was the custom to leave church via the Sunday market. They still come, even though there's little or nothing to buy. But habits are hard to break, and in these appalling conditions, they can be a comfort. Before the siege, these stalls were full. You can still buy boot polish, black, 7 tins left, and the last 2 sachets of pepper, but you cannot buy meat or vegetables, so nowadays you adapt your diet to suit the times. You've heard it reported before, but it's still so hard to believe that people are eating daisies, dock leaves, nettles, and ordinary roadside flowers. This is what is on sale here on a Sunday morning in Sarajevo. At the city's main hospital, blitzed by Serb shells and mortars, there's the same desperation. They're short of medicines, short of nursing staff, short of blood and oxygen. Are you getting medicines from the relief flights now?
Well, we have got something, but not what we wanted, not what we asked for, but we are expecting something.
Belma Goralia is 24 and a medical student. A sniper's bullet shattered her spine, and she'll never walk again. The wards are full of people like her. Michael Nicholson, ITN, Sarajevo.
Along with France, Canada has led in working to bring relief into Bosnia-Herzegovina. The issue is high on the agenda in Munich. Today, Canada's Prime Minister Brian Mulroney told CNN it is an intolerable situation that such a war should be going on, and we quote him now, in so-called civilized Europe.
I don't think that what is lacking, Ralph, are peacekeepers on the ground. I think that what is lacking is a political settlement that will preclude the possibility of snipers in the hills killing or maiming or wounding the UN peacekeepers who seek to do their jobs on the ground in and around the airport and opening up the arteries, the transportation arteries leading to the key distribution points throughout Sarajevo.
Leaders in Munich are expected to issue a strong political statement on the Balkan situation tomorrow.
Yugoslavia's newly nominated Prime Minister, Milan Panic, is vowing to end the fighting in Bosnia-Herzegovina. He is asking for a 100-day grace period. Protesters in Belgrade want Serbian President Slobodan Milosevic out now for drawing UN sanctions with the fighting. 40,000 filled the streets last night to hear opposition leader Vuk Drašković condemn Mr. Milosevic and Bosnian Croatians alike.
For the Europe, for the United States of America, and first of all, of Germany, is to stop Croatian fascist murderers in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Stop them immediately. We will stop Milosevic. They must help us and give chance to the peace.
Thousands of Serbs attended the event held in Belgrade.
China soon may be getting an official reminder of the Tiananmen Square protests and subsequent crackdown. The relatives of Bao Dong, the most senior official accused of supporting the 1989 demonstrations, say that he could be put on trial as early as Saturday. Clearing his case might allow the present leadership to put the Tiananmen crisis behind them and then speed up their economic reforms. A South African government commission says President F.W. de Klerk has been cleared of any involvement in those black township violence breakouts that have been plaguing the nation. The Goldstein Commission also has cleared high-level members of the cabinet and security forces. At least 29 more people were killed over the weekend. Soaring violence caused the democracy talks to break down in South Africa. The African National Congress has been blaming the government for the violence. Algerian television says 5 policemen were killed in an ambush by gunmen using nail-studded bars to block a road. The roadblock east of Algiers caused 2 police cars to spin out of control yesterday. Algerian television says gunmen then sprayed the cars with bullets. No one has claimed any responsibility for the attack, and about 80 members of Algeria's security forces have been killed in these kind of ambushes since mid-February. Authorities blame most of the killings on Muslim extremists.
Just ahead, the chase is over. An escaped convict is captured after nearly 2 months on the run in rugged Grand Canyon country. And a big U.S. Army base will not escape the budget-cutting knife. Those stories and more just ahead on World Day.
Before you really buy something, you should thoroughly investigate it. I took a chance this time and try to save a couple of dollars.
I found that the service wasn't there, so I went to AT&T and stayed with AT&T.
I don't want gimmicks. I want a long-distance phone company I can count on.
If you miss dealing with a long-distance company you can depend on, it's easy to come back to AT&T. Call 1-800-862-6555 and we'll switch you for free.
And I've tried every long-distance phone company that's out there.
After a few months, I said, forget it. I'm giving up on this. And I wanted to switch back to AT&T.
And I mean, I really feel that AT&T gives me the best service for what I want.
People who've seen what's out there are coming back for the service they deserve. Call AT&T right now, and we'll have you back in no time.
And the reason we switched initially was because of the, we're going to see this dramatic drop in our phone bill, and we didn't.
I mean, what's the point? They can't offer me substantially cheaper rates from what I've seen.
At AT&T, when we promise you savings, you get them. In fact, nobody gives you more ways to save. Come back now for free.
And it was just like a hassle figuring out both bills, both sets, and so we just said, hey, we just scrapped it and just now we get one phone bill and that's it. It's a lot easier to pay.
I think the reason I've stayed with AT&T is because it's always been easy.
AT&T makes everything easy, even switching back. Call now.
If I'm going to call my sister up in Canada, I want to hear, her voice, and if she sighs, I want to hear it. So I use AT&T.
I really...
1-800-862-6555. For the service and quality, only AT&T guarantees. Right now, we'll switch you for free. What a great time to come back.
Somebody said he was laughing all the way to jail. Danny Ray Horning, the Arizona fugitive, led some 400 police officers, FBI agents, and bloodhounds on a 7-week chase, taunting them at times with notes in what was described as Rambo-style tactics. On Saturday, though, police say Horning took 2 women hostage in the Grand Canyon, tied them to a tree, and stole their car. Police finally caught the 35-year-old fugitive yesterday. He was outside a home in Sedona, Arizona.
The only thing I could think of after all this was over is how close we came maybe to being hostages for this man. And that was very, very frightening. Very frightening.
What do you think of the fact that he showed up at your house?
Well, it was pretty scary, but when he was hiding under our deck, I thought it was pretty scary to me.
But then they caught him.
I know.
Well, Horning's being held on $2 million bail. It's expected he'll be arraigned today.
It's nearly taps for a historic U.S. Army base. Fort Dix will graduate its last basic training class next month. CNN's Gary Tuckman reports on what Pentagon cuts will do to the 75-year-old facility.
It's the beginning of the day for these soldiers in basic training.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And the beginning of the end for the place where they train, Fort Dix, New Jersey. After 75 years as one of the U.S. Army's largest basic training facilities, this is the last class of Army privates. Outrageous is how many describe what's happening here.
Men and women from World Wars I and II, Korea, Vietnam, and the Gulf War have gone through Fort Dix. 3/4 of a century of training the soldiers of tomorrow is nearing its end today.
The New Jersey facility is one of the victims of Pentagon cost-cutting. Retired Staff Sergeant Bill Basin trained troops here during World War II.
I am sad by this. I don't think it should be shut down.
It's too great a place. It's too many people have gone through here. I mean, great people.
These were some of Sergeant Bason's people during World War II, soldiers who trained at Fort Dix, many of whom never came back. They trained at a fort that opened in 1917 and was named after Civil War General John Dix. It's a place with a vivid history, ranging from the holding of prisoners of war during World War II to training Kuwaiti soldiers to fight against Iraqi troops occupying their country. For years, there has been talk of shutting down Fort Dix, but even as the talk continued, dramatic scaling down began.
When I went through, we had thousands of troops here, and so there's a feeling of almost abandonment of the post.
The rifle ranges are now largely abandoned, as are many of the barracks. The playgrounds for children of soldiers no longer see much action. August will be the final basic training graduation.
Yeah, I've only been here for about 2 weeks, and I'm already starting to think that what's it going to be like when it's gone, what they're going to turn it into.
Reserve units will continue to use part of the fort, but no decision has been made about what will be done with the rest of it. Life will go on for the people who work and train here, but as for the fort's basic mission, this is the end of the line. Gary Tuckman, CNN, Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Southern California residents still recovering from last week's twin quakes are coping with aftershocks. A minor tremor was centered this morning near Yucca Valley. A strong aftershock was also centered yesterday in that area. Caltech says yesterday's tremor measured 5.5 on the Richter scale. No injuries or damages, though, have been reported.
Despite repeated danger warnings, many parents still are not strapping their babies into those infant car seats. So says a report in the latest issue of the Journal of Pediatrics in America. The study has focused on 183 fatal car crashes involving infants. 49 of the children were killed while sitting on a parent's lap. Well, just a short time ago, the crew members of Space Shuttle Columbia cruised into history. We'll have a look at the latest from space and turning the tables in the ongoing struggle between Fleet Street and Buckingham Palace. Details when World Day continues.